We tend to think that having a high IQ is like winning the lottery, right? A one-way ticket to a life of success and ease. But what if that's not really the whole picture? Today, we're going to peel back the layers and look at the psychology of what it's actually like to have a mind that's always running in overdrive. So let's just ask it straight up. Is high intelligence a superpower? Well, yeah, it definitely can be. But like any good superpower story, it often comes with its own unique set of challenges. The ones that nobody really talks about. Okay, let's break this down. On the left, you've got the myth, the stereotype we all know. The genius who just coasts through life, who's the life of every party, and is brimming with confidence. But the reality, which psychology is starting to show us, is, well, it's a lot messier. We're talking about real mental exhaustion, a kind of deep loneliness, and a crushing fear of failure. So our first big struggle really gets to the core of it all. It's this idea of having a mind that just doesn't have an off switch. Let's get into the challenge of overthinking. So what do we even mean by overthinking here? It's not just worrying a bit. It's when that amazing analytical brain turns on itself. It starts running constant what-if scenarios, replaying conversations from last week on a loop, and just creating this low-level hum of anxiety that never quite goes away. And this quote from our source material, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? It's so simple, but it's so true. It's not about a lack of willpower. It's a fundamental challenge that's baked right into the cognitive wiring. And here's the paradox, right? The exact same mental engine that leads to brilliant insights and better decisions is also the one that's fueling that chronic anxiety. It's literally two sides of the very same high-powered coin. So if that's what's happening on the inside, how does it affect the outside world? Well, that brings us to our next section, the struggle with isolation, that feeling of being totally alone, even when you're in a room full of people. And let's be clear, this isn't about just being shy or introverted. We're talking about a specific kind of loneliness called intellectual isolation. It's that ache you feel when you're desperate for a deep, complex conversation, but everyone around you is just making small talk. Your brain sees the world in these abstract layers, and it just doesn't connect. And this leads to a pretty clear social preference that shows up in the research. It's not that highly intelligent people are antisocial. It's that they prioritize depth. They're not looking for 100 acquaintances. They're looking for a few truly deep, meaningful connections. And this is the absolute key. While wanting quality over quantity is a great thing, finding those kinds of connections is hard. And that search can often lead to this really profound and painful sense of being utterly alone. This leads us to the pressure from within. The next two struggles are so connected that we've grouped them together here under this idea of the weight of potential. And that covers both a tendency for perfectionism and something a little heavier, existential dread. First up, perfectionism. For a highly intelligent person, this isn't about having a tidy desk. It's about being able to see with perfect clarity the ideal way something could be done. And when reality, inevitably falls short of that perfect vision, that's when the high standards turn into a really brutal inner critic. And it creates this horrible, vicious cycle. It starts with you envisioning that perfect outcome. Then, when the result is just fine or average, you feel this intense frustration. That frustration feeds the harsh self-criticism, which then builds and builds into a genuine fear of failure that can absolutely paralyze you. The other half of this weight of potential is existential anxiety. That incredible capacity for abstract thought doesn't just get applied to work problems. It gets applied to life, the universe, everything, leading to these constant, heavy questions about your purpose, the meaning of it all, and your own mortality. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. While most people are very understandably focused on the day-to-day grind, the highly intelligent mind is often simultaneously grappling with these massive, unanswerable questions. And that can be an incredibly lonely place to be. Okay, so we've talked about the internal chatter, the external isolation. Let's get to the final piece of the puzzle, because this is where we get to reframe this whole thing, not as a character flaw, but as just a different way of being. And that final piece is hyper-awareness. It's like your brain is a pattern-matching machine that's been cranked up to 11. You are constantly noticing things other people miss, flaws in an argument, subtle injustices, logical gaps, and a million tiny inefficiencies all around you. And that comes at a cost, both inside and out. On the inside, it's just plain exhausting to process that much information all the time. And on the outside, when you point these things out, you can come across as being negative or a know-it-all or just
too intense for the people around you.
Which brings us to what might be the most powerful and liberating takeaway from all of this. Seriously, let this one sink in for a second. You're not difficult. You're wired differently.
And that's the whole point. Overthinking, feeling isolated, perfectionism, existential dread, hyper-awareness, these aren't character flaws that you need to fix. They are the natural, unavoidable byproducts of having a mind that almost never, ever rests. Just understanding that is the first giant step. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. Knowing this is how your brain is built, how can you stop fighting against it and start learning how to turn this unique wiring into your greatest strength?